Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you're part of our journey. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and get ready for a story that will leave you thinking. And if you love inspiring tales, a like goes a long way. We don't serve charity cases here. The manager's words sliced through the diner's late-night hum, sharp enough to turn heads but quiet enough that only the waitress and the rain-soaked boy outside the window knew their true weight. Rain tapped against the windows of the roadside diner, a lonely percussion to accompany the flickering neon sign outside. Inside, warmth and the scent of coffee created a haven from the midnight storm. The young waitress glanced again at the boy huddled against the building, his thin jacket no match for the relentless downpour. In the corner booth, partially hidden by shadow, a man in a dark jacket paused with his coffee cup halfway to his lips. His eyes moved from the shivering boy outside to the confrontation unfolding between staff. What happened next would remind everyone in that diner what humanity truly meant. If this moment made you feel something, imagine what's coming next. Hit that like button and stay with us. Subscribe now. Sarah wiped condensation from the window, her concerned gaze fixed on the boy. He couldn't be older than 19, with soaked clothes clinging to his thin frame. His eyes, hollow with hunger, followed each plate she carried to tables. She'd been watching him for nearly 20 minutes, noticing how he never begged or approached anyone. Just stood there, shivering, occasionally wiping rain from his face with a sleeve that offered no dryness. "He's been out there forever," she whispered to herself, balancing a coffee pot in one hand. The midnight shift at Earl's Roadside Diner was usually uneventful. Truckers, late-night travelers, the occasional insomniac local, but tonight felt different. Something about the boy's dignity and suffering tugged at her. She'd already decided to help when her manager, Richard, intercepted her reaching for a menu. "What do you think you're doing?" Richard's voice carried that particular blend of authority and disdain he reserved for staff who stepped out of line. At 43, he ran the diner with mechanical precision, caring more about the bottom line than the people who generated it. His pressed shirt and permanent frown seemed designed to intimidate. "That kid's not a customer. He's just another drifter looking for handouts." Sarah's grip tightened on the menu. "He's freezing out there, Richard. I was just nothing. We start feeding strays. We'll have a line around the block." His voice lowered, but the edge remained. "You want to keep this job? Focus on paying customers." He nodded toward a family in a booth, their empty coffee cups signaling need. Like them. The other patrons pretended not to notice, suddenly fascinated by their phones or food. All except for the man in the corner booth, whose attention remained fixed on the unfolding scene, dark eyes observant under the brim of his cap. Sarah moved to the family's table, filling cups with mechanical precision while her mind raced. 6 months at this job had helped her chip away at student loans, but moments like this made her question the cost to her humanity. Through the window, she watched the boy press his hands against the glass, seeking warmth from the building's heat. His face, illuminated briefly by headlights from a passing truck, revealed exhaustion beyond his years. Richard disappeared into the back office, leaving Sarah to navigate her moral dilemma alone. She caught the eye of the quiet man in the corner booth as she passed. Something about him seemed familiar. The way he sat, perhaps, or the thoughtful intensity in his gaze. He nodded almost imperceptibly as if acknowledging her predicament. Outside, the rain intensified, drumming against the roof and windows with renewed fury. The boy huddled closer to the building, sheltering under the narrow overhang, his thin shoulders curved inward against the cold. The digital clock above the counter clicked over to 1 a.m., and Sarah felt the weight of decision pressing down on her. Help him and risk her job, or turn away and betray something fundamental in herself, Things are about to take a turn. Don't miss what happens next. Subscribe, like our video, and keep watching. The diner's bell chimed as the front door opened, bringing with it a gust of rain-heavy wind. The boy had finally gathered his courage and stepped inside, water pooling around his worn sneakers on the linoleum floor. His entrance created a moment of suspended animation. Conversations paused, silverware stilled against plates. He stood there, dripping and uncertain, fighting to keep his shivering under control. His voice cracked, barely audible over the rain's percussion on the roof. I was wondering if you need help, cleaning or something. In exchange for... His eyes darted to a half-eaten plate of fries abandoned at a nearby table. Sarah moved toward him with instinctive compassion, but Richard emerged from the office faster, stopping her with a glare. He approached the boy with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd removed unwanted elements before. We don't need help. We're fully staffed. The manager's tone left no room for negotiation. You need to leave before you scare away paying customers. The boy's face flushed with humiliation as several patrons looked away, suddenly interested in their food or phones. His hands trembled. From cold or shame, it was impossible to tell. I can wait tables or wash dishes. Anything. I haven't eaten since... I don't need your life story, Richard interrupted, guiding the boy back toward the door with a hand that never quite touched him but hovered threateningly close. We're running a business here, not a charity. Sarah stepped forward, coffee pot still clutched in one hand. Richard, it's pouring out there. Can't we at least... One more word and you can join him, Richard snapped, not bothering to lower his voice. The threat hung in the air, electric with tension. Sarah fell silent, job security battling with moral outrage in her eyes. The boy's shoulders slumped in defeat as he backed toward the door, dignity crumbling under the weight of hunger and rejection. A truck driver looked up from his meal, uncomfortable witnessing the scene but unwilling to intervene. A couple in a booth whispered to each other, the woman's face pinched with disapproval, though whether for the boy or the manager remained unclear. It was then that the quiet man in the corner booth finally moved. He set down his coffee cup with deliberate care, the soft clink of ceramic against saucer somehow cutting through the awkward silence. His movement wasn't hurried, but it carried unmistakable purpose. As he stood, his face caught the light fully for the first time, and Sarah's breath caught in recognition. The beard couldn't fully disguise him, Keanu Reeves. Not red carpet Keanu, but the more familiar internet version, slightly rumpled, thoughtful, unassuming despite his fame. He approached with that distinctive walk, unhurried yet purposeful. The diner's fluorescent lights caught the silver threads in his dark hair as he moved past the stunned waitress. "Excuse me." His voice was quiet but carried easily in the now silent diner. Every head turned, recognition dawning across faces. Phones discreetly raised, though none dared to be obvious about recording the moment. Richard's expression transformed from irritation to confusion, then to the particular smile reserved for potential profit. "Mr. Reeves, I didn't realize we'd be happy to..." Keanu moved past him without acknowledgement, stopping beside the boy who stood frozen by the door, dripping rainwater onto the welcome mat. Up close, the contrast was striking. The established star in his casual but quality clothing next to the shivering young man in his threadbare jacket. "I could use some company for dinner," Keanu said directly to the boy, his voice low enough to offer dignity yet audible enough for witnesses. "Would you join me? My booth has plenty of room." He turned toward Sarah, who still clutched the coffee pot like a lifeline. "We'll need another menu, please, and maybe some dry towels." Richard's face performed a remarkable gymnastics routine of expressions, landing on something between shock and calculation. The diner had become a theater, with everyone watching the scene unfold, collective breath held. This story is only getting deeper. What would you do in this situation? Comment below, and let's talk. The boy stood transfixed, recognition dawning slowly on his face. He started, then stopped, unsure whether acknowledging the celebrity would somehow break the moment. Just a guy having a late dinner. Keanu finished for him with that gentle half-smile that had launched 1,000 memes. And it looks like you could use one too. He gestured toward his booth, creating a space for dignity in what had moments before been humiliation. Richard stepped forward, customer service smile now firmly in place. Mr. Reeves, we'd be honored to comp your meal tonight. Perhaps a more private table in the back. This booth is perfect, Keanu replied without looking at the manager, his focus remaining on the young man. What's your name? Tyler? The boy answered, his voice steadying slightly despite his shivering. I'm Keanu. He extended his hand, the simple gesture transforming the power dynamic of the entire room. When Tyler hesitantly took it, several patrons discreetly wiped away tears. Sarah, finally breaking from her stunned immobility, rushed to grab clean towels from behind the counter. The truck driver who had been watching the scene unfold nodded in quiet approval, while the couple in the booth stopped whispering, now openly watching. Tyler followed Keanu to the booth, leaving a trail of rainwater that Richard would normally have reprimanded staff about immediately. Now, the manager hovered uncertainly, authority undermined. Watching as Sarah returned with towels and a menu, her earlier fear replaced with purposeful movement. Order whatever you want, Keanu said as Tyler cautiously slid into the booth opposite him. The breakfast here is good any time of day. He spoke as if they were old friends catching up, no hint of charity or condescension in his tone. I don't want to impose, Tyler mumbled, fingers clutching the towel Sarah had handed him. You're not imposing, Keanu replied, voice quiet but firm. I've been where you are. A ripple of surprise moved through the diner at this admission. The actor leaned forward slightly, focus entirely on Tyler as if the watching audience had disappeared. Everyone hits rough patches. Sometimes you need someone to acknowledge that you exist. Sarah stood ready with her order pad, eyes bright with unshed tears. Across the diner, a woman openly recorded the interaction on her phone, her companion no longer trying to stop her. The rain continued its steady rhythm against the windows, but inside, the atmosphere had transformed from tension to something approaching reverence. Tyler looked down at the menu, then up at Keanu, with a vulnerability that made several patrons look away out of respect. Why would you help me when... He glanced toward Richard, who stood rigid by the counter. Because kindness costs nothing, Keanu said, just loud enough for nearby tables to hear, but its absence costs everything. The simple wisdom hung in the air as Tyler nodded, understanding passing between them. Sarah took their orders: pancakes, eggs, bacon for Tyler, more coffee and toast for Keanu. As she walked away, Keanu called after her, and maybe some dry socks if anyone has a spare pair. Without hesitation, the truck driver at the counter pulled a new pair from his duffel. Here, he said, standing to bring them over. Can't have the kids sitting in wet socks. This small action broke the invisible barrier, and suddenly the diner felt united in a shared moment of humanity. Richard remained frozen by the counter, his authority evaporating as the truck driver patted Tyler's shoulder and a woman from another table brought over her unused napkin to help dry his hair. The manager's face cycled through calculations, recognizing both the social media disaster he'd narrowly avoided and the potential viral moment happening in his establishment. When the food arrived, Keanu thanked Sarah by name, having noticed her tag earlier. He made space on the table, pushing aside his own half-finished meal. "You know," he said to Tyler as the boy took his first eager bite, "the most important thing about hitting bottom is remembering that it's not your final destination." Tyler paused, fork halfway to his mouth. "I've been trying to find work for weeks. Nobody wants to hire someone with no address." "What skills do you have?" Keanu asked, as though this were the most natural late-night conversation in the world. "It's not over yet. The best part is coming. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it." As Tyler described his background in computer repair and coding, skills learned through community college before financial hardship forced him to drop out, the truck driver who donated the socks leaned over from the next booth. "My company's always hiring IT support. Nothing fancy, but it's steady work with benefits." He slid a business card onto the table. "Call this number Monday morning. Tell them Dave recommended you." Tyler stared at the card as if it might vanish. "I don't know how to thank. Just pay it forward someday," Dave replied with a shrug that didn't quite hide his emotion. Keanu watched this exchange with quiet satisfaction, sipping his coffee. Across the diner, other conversations had resumed, but with a different quality. Softer, more considerate. The couple that had been whispering now openly discussed local shelters and resource centers, their voices carrying intentionally to where Richard stood. Sarah approached their table again, this time with a takeout container. "For later," she said, placing it beside Tyler's nearly empty plate. Her eyes met Keanu's with gratitude, then shifted defiantly toward Richard, who had finally moved from his frozen position and was now busying himself with paperwork at the register. "Do you have somewhere to stay tonight?" Keanu asked Tyler, his question practical rather than prying. Tyler hesitated before shaking his head. "I was heading to the shelter, but it's full on rainy nights. I'll find somewhere." "There's a motel down the road," the woman who'd been recording said, putting her phone away as if suddenly conscious of her intrusion. "My sister manages it. I can call her." She was already dialing before anyone could respond. Outside, the rain had gentled to a soft patter, as if matching the changed atmosphere within. The neon open sign reflected in puddles across the parking lot, its red glow softened by the mist. Inside, warmth had replaced tension, connection overcoming barriers. When it came time to pay, Keanu handled the check quietly, adding something that made Sarah's eyes widen slightly. Richard hovered nearby, attempting to inject himself into the moment with obsequious thanks and mentions of what an honor it was to serve him. "You have good people working here," Keanu replied, his gaze deliberately moving to Sarah. "People with compassion are your greatest asset." The gentle emphasis wasn't lost on anyone within earshot. Before leaving, Keanu spoke briefly with Tyler outside the diner's entrance, their conversation private despite the curious eyes watching through rain-streaked windows. What passed between them remained their own. But when Tyler returned inside to wait for his motel ride, his face showed something beyond gratitude, a renewed sense of dignity. The woman who had called her sister approached Tyler with a smile. "Room's ready whenever you are. Paid up for a week." She handed him a business card. "And this is for a local agency that helps with job placement and housing. They open at 9. As dawn approached, the diner had transformed. The cynical bubble that Richard had cultivated had been permanently punctured by simple human kindness. Sarah approached him as he tallied the night's receipts, her stance different, more confident. "I'd like to discuss our policy on helping people in need," she said, no longer the uncertain waitress afraid to speak up. Outside in the parking lot, Keanu pulled his collar up against the lightning drizzle, anonymous once more in the early morning gray. A witness might have noticed how he paused to look back at the diner's warmly lit windows, where strangers had briefly connected through compassion before continuing to his motorcycle. The story would spread, of course, first through social media posts from those present, then through news outlets hungry for uplifting content. But its true impact lived in the changed policies at one roadside diner, in Tyler's second chance, and in countless small kindnesses inspired by one rain-soaked night when humanity quietly triumphed over indifference. Wow, what a story! If this moved you, imagine what else we have for you. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and let us know what you think.